Right. This is Behind the Scenes with Oscar the Creator. My name is Oscar Muyambo. I'm a Namibian based digital artist, graphic designer, musician, creative entrepreneur, and a whole lot more. So this is going to be like a raw kind of Q&A where I'll be sharing my raw self with you guys. So shout out to all my fans and everyone who's bought a portrait and everyone who's been sharing my posts and who's just following the Oscars Art Namibia movement. So it was about 2 years ago when I decided to come out and showcase some of my talents. Prior to that, I've been a graphic designer for over 10 years, so that was actually like my field where I was earning a lucrative income. And but over the years, like as a little kid, actually when I was 3 or 4, I used to doodle a lot. And at some point, my mom ended up taking me to art school when I was 5 years old, and yeah, I got to learn a lot. And I never stopped drawing. I've always been drawing comics, sometimes explicit kind of stuff for a young age. I don't know, yeah, but that was my crazy self. And I would find myself always gravitating toward friends and toward friendships where I would always be in this kind of creative platform. So, fast forward to 2016. That's when I started collaborating with a lot of other artists and actually had this idea of making art commercial, in the sense that, for the most part, most Namibian artists that I know who are really gifted and talented and who have all these amazing skill sets are finding it very hard to get by and to actually earn a sustainable income. And I noticed that our Namibian art industry is also either underfunded or it's just more of a pity kind of based movement where people look at artists as just someone you would help out from time to time and not really realize the significant amount of talent and the significant amount of value that they get to give. And I guess there was no real movement that actually brought the corporates as well as the creatives together in a win-win kind of fashion. So this is what Oscars Art Namibia movement is about, to actually create that whole crazy cool experience where we can combine both in a win-win fashion and everyone gets paid or everyone receives a big ton of value and everyone is happy. So that's behind the art. Um, okay, the journey of an artist. To be frank, if you're an artist, and unfortunately in Africa, I don't know, it depends with the type of parents you're raised with. Some parents are very open-minded to this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, mine were a bit too academic. So I'm just gonna tell you straight up that it's going to be a big struggle, especially emotionally, for the better part of your youth. You're going to find yourself kind of living a lie, or trying to please people, or trying to impress people. Even though a part of you just wants to be creatively expressive, you end up quote unquote being forced to study things that you didn't really want, but you had to because you kind of had no choice. And if you're a person who's going through that, I can relate with you straight up. When I was 15, I finished matric, and at 16 I was at the University of Namibia as a law student. I actually have two law degrees that I haven't used. But yeah, after I graduated, I had like a big epiphany, sort of like it starts with a depressive kind of state where you're just looking at the futility of life, but at the same time you get through a trance where you start reevaluating your life, and you're just like, man, if I'm to die in, let's say, 2 or 3 years, what would I rather do? And it was so clear in my mind that I would rather just be the creative expression of myself and just do a lot of creative things, creative work, such as music, such as graphic design, such as art. And it was actually back in 2014, after reading a book, Think and Grow Rich, that encouraged me to get over my fears and just do what I really wanted. And since then, this is what I've been doing. So if you're a young artist going through the same kind of thing, where in Africa they have these labels of professions of, like, you're either a doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer, or a loser. Everyone else falls in the loser category. Then all I'm gonna tell you is that being there, follow your heart, do what you need. It's gonna be tough as hell. People are gonna criticize you. You're gonna learn to embrace solitude. You're gonna learn to be on your own for the most part, but which is kind of liberating, in the sense that once you learn to be alone, or once you get over that fear of solitude, you become unstoppable. You can do whatever you want, and you can blend in with whoever you want. You actually become a very authentic or authentically expressive person. And yeah, that's what I would say about that. The second thing that I see with most artists is that they're afraid to put in monetary value to their work. It's more like this kind of petty, kind of selling kind of industry that I didn't want. Personally, as an artist, I want to change the game. I want to be selling beauty. I want to be selling experiences, like mind-blowing experiences. I want to be taking my fans and my patrons on a journey where they're just going to experience something truly unique and that I personally feel is remarkable, and just give them a kind of 5 seconds of bliss where you get to forget about your life's problems, you get to forget about reality, you get to suspend reality for a little while you're engaging in my art. And that's what I want to share as an artist. How do I say it? One of my major influences was Leonardo da Vinci, in the sense that he wasn't limited to only one type of art form. So he was a visual artist, but he could also sculpt. He was also an inventor, and he was talented in so many things. And if you look at history, people like Casanova have also been my major influences, in the sense that, this is a guy who was a lawyer, a poet, a musician, a writer. He invented the lottery. So he mentioned something that was truly profound, where he was in his 70s and he wrote his memoirs, and he just put out there that he had a life that was worth living, in the sense that he did all the crazy cool things that he could have possibly done as a human being, and to him that was what gave him so much satisfaction and motivation through life. And looking back at my life, when I felt repressed, or when I was very afraid to do the things that I wanted to do, lest I be judged or ostracized or whatever it was, he became like a big form of inspiration, just putting into mind that carpe diem concept, or the concept of embracing your mortality, that eventually we're all gonna die, but at least you would want to write like an epic movie about your life, where you would look back and say, yeah, I did some crazy stuff. So yeah, what many people don't know about me is that, like, I look at myself more as a student than this, guru or whatever it is. And I've just always been fascinated with the concept of learning. And I strongly believe that, not to sound spiritual per se, but most of the gifts that I've had the pleasure of experiencing, I would say like 50% of all my talents are attributed to God, and 25% will be like to the influences, whether virtual or real people, that because I'm a voracious reader, I like reading a lot. So it would be like all these influences that have encouraged me to man up, as they say, and just do all that crazy cool stuff. And I would say, yeah, 25% would be personal initiative, plowing through the frustrations, being willing to try the absurd, always being like a human guinea pig, where I would experiment. I spent most of my years experimenting, trying to just see if things work out, and if they didn't, and if they would come out favorably in my demographic and in my context. So those are the things that I would put out there. So as a student of life, I would find myself, anything that would fascinate me would be something I would undertake. So I would go on a journey, either 3 months, 6 months, or a year, where I would be learning from someone that has a skill or a skill set that I admire. So, when I was younger, the first gateway into creative expression for me was music. So I had a mentor, his name is Alan Kavishe. We call him Savage. And he was like this genius that showed how you could make music from your computer. And that's when he introduced me to Fruity Loops. And 7 years I've just been playing around with Fruity Loops and making music and making beats and doing things that, at some point I would have never thought I would be able to do. And that was one of my major mentors. Of course, there were other musicians that you start hanging around with and just creating beautiful music because it just felt good. Personally, I would get a certain sensational high off of being creative, or when I'm making music, it's like 5 hours would easily go by, and it would just be beautiful, blissful. And then eventually I transitioned into graphic design, which was really cool because I needed to help my mother's business in marketing, but at the same time I also wanted to create a CD cover. It was a CD cover that transitioned me into graphic design, where I realized the power of Photoshop. That with Photoshop you can design, you can create adverts, and these adverts can be used on social media, and social media can actually be used to make you a lot of money if you know exactly how to use it and if you know how to advertise through it, which is amazing, and from then on, that's when I transitioned into digital art, using Photoshop as well to create the works that you see. In between, I've also been what they call a pickup artist, or someone who studied dating and relationships, and who's been traveling the world, just interacting with so many people. So like me being able to express myself like this is not really an accident. Like, firstly, I'm a voracious reader. Secondly, I think I've interacted with thousands and thousands of people, had conversations with people of all races, all places. Crazy. And, just having that privilege of being able to travel more than 20 countries has also been like very mind-blowing and eye-opening. And growing up as well, or traveling to places like Cape Town, where they're very artsy and everyone is just so so chic and sometimes a bit woo-woo. I think that stuff also rubs off on you. So yeah, I would say I've been fortunate enough that I've always adopted that student kind of mindset, and it allowed me to explore the world and explore a lot of things. And what you get to see right now that's being channeled is like little bits and pieces of all the crazy experiences that I'm just channeling or that I've been fortunate enough to experience. To be honest, art is like a tedious process. So if you're looking for fame and success, unfortunately, it's not just going to come from talent alone for the most part. And for most artists that I know, especially talking to myself as well, or talking about myself, naturally I've been an introvert and a very shy person. So with that, there is what they call exposure therapy, where you just have to face your fears, bite the bullet, understand you're going to be criticized, understand your work is not going to be palatable for everyone, and not everyone is going to like your stuff, not everyone is going to appreciate the amount of work you put in. But I would say just keep on creating, because you're channeling God's energy, and I feel like it's your duty to give and just to create and to express yourself. And with time, the more you become brave and courageous, that's when things will start unfolding for you. Because I personally feel like Anyone who's withholding their gifts from the world is committing a crime against God, a crime against the people that could have benefited or that could be inspired from your work. You know, sometimes you only need to inspire one or two people through your courage in order to create or in order to spark a movement. So I would advise people, like, you know, of course there's going to be inner demons. There's going to be that fear. There's going to be that voice that's going to tell you you're just wasting your time, that maybe the people that are making fun of you are right because, you know, you're not making money and you're not there yet and there's no future in what you're doing. But I would say that, you know, of course, just keep on creating because you love to do it. And if you want to be successful at what you're doing, I think the blueprint is simple. You know, you also can't be too lazy. And what I would say is that look at someone that you can model, a successful artist. If you're a musician, look at a successful musician and try and read an autobiography on that person and see how they managed to create success for themselves, and see if you can emulate some of those characteristics and traits and, you know, create something commercially viable for yourself. So it's one of those things that talent alone, unfortunately, is not going to get you far in this really hard kind of industry. So you might have to just add a bit more social intelligence, learn how to network, learn how to read business books, and see how you can infuse it with your creativity to create kind of a win-win platform where you are giving more value than you're receiving. And in the end, I strongly feel that that will be the thing that will sustain you, that will create that authenticity, that will win you more fans and more customers. And that's just my point of view based on my own personal experiences and how I got to start gradually being able to make commercial sense out of my work. All right, the question is, if I was to die today, how would I summarize my life in one sentence? I died on my shield. I died on my path to doing some crazy cool things. And I'm always trying to do crazy cool things. I think that will be like that legacy of mine. So if I was to die today, I would say I would have no regrets, as in 80% of the things I've always wanted to do, I've either done or I'm in the process of doing. And if that's the case, if someone takes my life or if God takes my life before I feel like I've reached my prime, or before I feel like I've really expressed myself in the way I want to, at the very least, I was on my path. I died on my own trail, doing what I felt I wanted to do, doing the things that I felt I was brave enough to, you know, just do something different and a bit unconventional, but that was truly authentic and valuable to myself. I think that would be the major thing that would go through my head if I were to die today.